Hello, everyone. Jim Quigley here. I'll take the opportunity to begin our roundtable discussion now. We're live and with all of our speakers. So first, I want to say thank you to all the speakers for their excellent contributions to the meeting. I know I learned a lot about how each organization functions and the role they play in shaping the legislation that's so important to ag research, to ADSA, and to all of us as citizens. We've compiled a list of questions for each of the speakers today. I'll start by asking a few questions, but welcome comments from all of the participants as we go along. So without further ado, I'll get started. Thank you everyone again for being here, and I look forward to all of your comments. So here we go. Let me get started. We're going to begin with Mr. Panetta. Jimmy, thank you for being here. And first question for you is, can you tell us a little bit about the Ag Research Caucus? What's its makeup and how does it play a role in shaping the legislation that ends up influencing ag research?
I thank you and well, good morning out here on the West Coast, and I appreciate this opportunity and thanks for all the work that the ADSA does to highlight something that we're continuing to try to highlight in Washington, D.C. and that's how beneficial agricultural research is to our agriculture. And so that's exactly why my partner, my colleague, my good friend, Rodney Davis and I started the Ag Research Caucus. Now, we are both members of the Agriculture Committee, which fortunately is very bipartisan. Now, don't get me wrong, we're obviously going to have our differences, especially when it comes to our agriculture. Rodney's got a lot of row crops, I have a lot of specialty crops, but what we work towards finding is our similarities, not just on the Ag Committee, but it's exactly why we were co-creators, co-founders, I should say, and are co-chairs of the Ag Research Caucus, because we found our similarities in how beneficial ag research was to our agriculture. It doesn't matter what type of agriculture we have, just making sure that there's research there and funding for that research, most importantly, to benefit all of our agriculture in our United States. And so with the Ag Research Caucus, it's a bipartisan caucus in which right now I think there's about 12 Democrats, 13 Republicans that come together and have discussions, but also have presentations about ag research and how beneficial it is. Now that's important for us on the Ag Committee because obviously understand that and promote the funding that will continue to work for, be it in the upcoming Farm Bill, be it in the appropriations process, or even in this infrastructure process in which the significant amount is included in the infrastructure bill for ag research. But it's also making sure that those who are not on the Ag Committee, those who don't have agricultural districts, understand the benefits of ag research. And that's the biggest part of it. It's just making sure that those who are from agricultural districts get how important it is to have ag research funding, but most importantly, making sure that there are other members outside of our agricultural districts that understand the benefits of it as well. And fortunately, it's bipartisan and it's spread throughout the country. And so I'm pretty proud that we founded it. I'm proud that we're continuing it. But most of all, I'm proud of the funding that we're getting for ag research through the legislative process.
Super. Excellent. Thanks so much for that. I'm going to follow up with another question that I hope we can get some input from others, but I'll begin with you again, Mr. Congressman. This is related to communication and communication with legislators. Most ADSA members are techie types. We're highly trained scientists to work in areas of science that can be kind of difficult to explain to the average citizen or to a congressional representative. How important is it for ADSA scientists to be able to communicate these research results and priorities simply and clearly in ways that can be understood, say, by your grandma? And how important is that when we talk with you or other members of Congress? And I'll then get your comments and then open it up to some of the other folks on the roundtable.
I appreciate that, Jim. That's obviously a very, very important question. And I say that not just as my time as congressman, I say that as an intel analyst over in Afghanistan back in 2008. I'll never forget talking to a couple of Intel analyst who were about to give a presentation to a couple of generals. And what they had on their slides, because obviously it was death by PowerPoint back then, what we had on our slides was what they put up was this analyst notebook. And if you're familiar with analyst notebook, it's about this web of these triangulations of who's connected to who. And it literally looked like just a messed up bird's nest on the screen. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, you may understand what that means and how that's important, but they sure as hell are not going to understand that. And so get rid of that and just tell them what's important. And I think that's, I take that lesson to heart, and I hope our scientists and researchers take that lesson to heart going forward. And that you're right, you do just have to have a straightforward conversation of not just necessary, and trust me, there are a few members who are going to understand the work and the great work that our scientists are doing to benefit our ag research and our agriculture. But for the most part, they're not. And so you just kind of got to get to the conclusions and why the work they're doing is very important to their communities, to our agriculture, to the people, to their constituents. And so it's basically making sure that you don't get tied down too much into the weeds about it, but also talk about why those weeds are important for us and for our agriculture going forward. And, and like I said, I think it's got to translate to those people to those representatives in urban areas. Don't be afraid to talk to them. Don't be afraid to talk about your work. And you know what? Brag about your work, because you're doing some damn good work there. And we need that to basically highlight what you're doing and highlight the benefits of it for our agriculture. But what it comes down to is your work provides us food security. And that's so important. And you can never shy away from talking about that, especially to representatives. You're going to obviously get open ears for those who come from ag districts like myself here on the Central Coast of California. But also when you start talking food security and the benefits of nutrition, you're going to get open ears from those in urban districts as well.
Comments from anyone else on the roundtable regarding this idea of simple communication?
This is Dr. Mark Luchjanik, and I think we share that with scientists when we bring veterinarians into town to talk about the issues. We run into the same thing. They want to talk their veterinary ease, and we try to tell them that no, you have to talk and be sure that the staffers, who in some cases might not have a science background or might have a limited science background, are able to understand you. And I think something that Congressman Panetta said is very important. Why is it important to them, to their district, et cetera? And also, if you have a personal story you could tell that can help get that story across. I find that when we tell our personal stories, a lot of times the scientific and the way we speak becomes more personal, and I think it's easier to be understood by folks on the Hill when you're in talking about these types of issues.
Super, thank you, Mark. Okay, I want to shift just a little bit and ask a question of Mr. Hamer. During your presentation, and really throughout all of the presentations, one of the recurring themes was collaborative research, that we have to work across organizations, even across borders. Is there an expectation that the USDA will partner with university researchers or even those in the private sector in this collaborative process?
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. And I'll say absolutely, to get our work done, we need to work definitely within government, but also look at universities, the private sector, other government organizations. It's critical to our success to be able to deliver our mission of providing food, clothing the nation, and providing fuel also, and working together outside of our bounds at USDA is critical. I'll give you a couple of examples. Looking at the Agricultural Research Service, they work with many different partners. They use tools like their cooperative research agreements to help solve critical ag problems. The National Institute of Food and Agriculture, NIFA, and USDA, they have a lot of grant programs that are available to invest and again, government, non-government entities. So it's critical that we have the public and private sector working together to solve some of these very critical issues and problems that we have.
Excellent. And Sally, I think your presentation, FAR, was really the manifestation of a lot of that kind of interaction, wasn't it?
Yes, in fact, we are the foundation for the USDA, and we are able to create these public-private partnerships really because of the vision of Congress who set ourselves up. But our collaboration with the USDA is phenomenal. We work with them to identify those areas that are prime for public-private partnerships, and we then go ahead and as you saw in my presentation yesterday, create these public-private partnerships, which have been really phenomenal over the last few years. But I think it's important because not only do we have access to data and results that we wouldn't have had access to in the government or in academic institutions, but vice versa. So the private sector also gets these great collaborations with those in academia and in the government. So it's really a two-way street, and it's worked quite well for agriculture.
Super. And as we think about the Farm Bill and the conversations going on, Congressman, I'm guessing that as part of these conversations, the idea of collaboration between organizations like ADSA and the university system, ARS and USDA and private partnerships is something that you would be interested in hearing more about. Is that fair?
Oh, very fair. And I think Sally knows that well. The doctor knows that well. Then basically based on our coordination with her and others, it's obviously, like I said, if you just on the surface, we could find our differences. There's no doubt about that. But we need to make sure that we communicate to find our similarities. And obviously, it's pretty easy for us in a lot of ways when you come from ag districts, but it's making sure that you can translate those similarities to others. And the more coordination we can have in developing our messaging and why that's important, the more successful we're going to be. So I do believe that, continue to reach out to my office, continue to reach out to other members' offices so that we can continue to have these types of discussions and make sure that our messaging is on point. And basically we talk about those that can benefit everybody's constituencies, especially when it comes to our agriculture, especially when it comes to our food security.
And I'll follow on with that point just a bit. Karen, you had made a couple of suggestions in your presentation regarding messaging and how scientific societies like ADSA, we really need to put forward an effort to simplify and perhaps streamline our messages. And you had suggested that might be an initiative where APLU and organizations like ADSA could work together. Did I capture your idea reasonably?
Yes, you did. And I have to say, I'm humbled to be among these titans of agricultural leaders here. And so grateful for this opportunity in general. But I just wanted to capitalize on some of the comments that Representative Panetta, Chairman Panetta of the Ag Research Caucus provided to us. And that is that, I think that we want to be also visionary. So we want to understand sort of what the investments of research have brought to us, what we have accomplished, but also we want to look forward. And I think Dr. Sally Rocky has done an excellent job. And frankly, I know Dr. Hubert Hammer has also been instrumental in just revitalizing one of our nation's statistical services as well, in the context of thinking about big data analytics and technologies that are really about the future of agriculture. And the dairy science system and the analytics that you all will undertake will look very different moving into the future than it does right now. And so being able to picture that and articulate it and talk about the systems, the networks, the facilities. Thank you so much, Representative Panetta, for being such a champion in that regard, that are needed to undertake this work is really part of this communication, in addition to the stories and the themes that you develop as a scientific society.
Super. Thank you for that. I want to shift gears a little bit. There was a comment, Mr. Hamer, that you made in your presentation yesterday. I think it's important that that we revisit that just a bit. And you mentioned that there are a number of open positions within USDA currently available, and of course ADSA has a number of students, both master's and PhD levels, who are working on and will finish degrees, and folks that are early in their scientific careers. How would a person with interest in working with USDA, how would they find more information about opportunities that are available?
Yeah, first I'll say USDA is one of the most diverse organizations in government, with more than 100,000 employees, and we're scattered all across the world. So we have a tremendous amount of opportunity there, positions in all walks, from science, statistics, economics, public relations, information technology. So we have a lot of different opportunities, and you can work within different walks within the agency. But we have a USDA career page is a good place to start, where you can find available opportunities within the department. It also has a link to the USA Jobs search engine, our student intern programs, the pathway programs. They're all listed there. You can search based on a specific area that you're interested in, a specific location that you're interested in, paid internships. I came into the organization through an internship. So we have a lot of different opportunities and very, very diverse career choices for anyone interested in working at USDA.
Great information, and we will get those links pulled together and put them into the meeting resources here, so that folks that are interested can more easily find those resources. Great, thanks for that. I want to kind of swing back to this idea about communication and the importance of communicating with folks in USDA, ARS, as well as in the legislative process. And Mark and Ed, AVMA, you all have methods of communicating with legislators and policymakers. For the folks who are sort of on the ground, your membership, what is the best way for them to engage in the policy process? Is it by communicating through you all, or do you also suggest that your members contact their legislators directly?
It's a combination, actually.
Okay.
You know, we encourage members to engage with their policymakers. So we have a number of different programs within the Government Relations Division to do that. We have a Congressional Advocacy Network, which is about 30 to 35,000 members that, you know, we'll send out alerts to have them, you know, write their member of Congress or contact or call or whatever. We'll provide them with talking points, with sample letters and different things like that. We encourage them to personalize it, so people just don't think that we're sending a form letter out to everybody. But more importantly, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've developed more of a grass tops type of organization, and it has we call it our ambassador program, and it has, I think we're up to about 200 different veterinarians who have, utilizing our political action committee and utilizing some other contacts, who have, you know, visited and with their member of Congress to talk about key issues related to veterinary medicine. And these visits could be anywhere from, you know, we had one gentleman that spent an hour in a coffee shop with the senator. We've had a number of people who have done visits to veterinary facilities to learn more about veterinary medicine. We had one member up in New York who wanted to do farm calls with a veterinarian, and we were able to facilitate something like that. So, you know, we highly encourage all of our members to get involved. And like any other organization, you know, there are a percentage that are going to, you know, hear that call and step up, and then there's a percentage that just, you know, they want us to do the work for them, and so we continue to reach out to them and just tell them how important it is for members of Congress to hear from their own constituents about the issues versus our political lobbyists going in and talking about the issues with staff. It's much more effective if we can get our members engaged to do that. And we anticipate that ambassador program to continue to grow. And it's become a very effective tool for us. We've had a number of successes as a result of it.
Super, great information. Thanks. Sally, your presentation yesterday was for many of us who weren't familiar with FAR, really informative, and appreciated how this public-private partnership is really leveraging public money to accomplish goals. I think there are a lot of ADSA members who are saying, "Wow, how do I get in? How do I get involved with this?" So, is there a place where we can send some of these early and mid-career folks that can find out more about the opportunities within FAR as far as grants and joining into the process? You're muted, Sally.
Thank you. Yes, thanks. We would love to hear from all of you. We are not a federal agency, so we cannot put our announcements on, for example, grants.gov, but we do have a distribution list. We post all of our competitive programs on our to our website and to those in the distribution list. So the best way to get involved with that would be to get on our distribution list. Our programs that do have annual solicitations, so our Seeding Solutions program, which is the program that allows people to come in once a year with any ideas, and most of our workforce programs have standard deadlines every year, once a year. They're usually sometime either in the fall or in the early winter. And so you can look out for those. But other than that, we oftentimes put out RFAs that come out of our consortia, or when we have a new partnership developed. So those are more ad hoc. And so that's why it's important to get on the distribution list to be able to know when those are coming out. So just pay attention a lot to our social media. We post everything on Twitter and Facebook and to the distribution list. And in addition, all of you that are at academic institutions, you do have most of your grants offices, your offices of sponsored research are on our distribution list, and they would have access to availability there.
Super. I think that's a real opportunity. And Sally, just to follow up on with the grants that you have been that you've been so successful in funding, back to this idea of collaboration. USDA scientists, ARS scientists are typically are they commonly involved in the projects that you find that are funded?
Yeah, oftentimes. Now we can't use ARS as a match technically because they're federal, but we do have ARS involved in many of our consortia. They also are recipients of our grants, so they can compete and win grants as well. So when we go for where the expertise is, and of course ARS has phenomenal expertise in agriculture, and so they are very closely aligned with us. We've done the most work with ARS of probably any federal agency, and they're great partners.
Super, great information. Thanks, Paul. You alluded to some really important changes in the productivity of the dairy industry over the past 50 to 100 years, and really what's happened in our productivity has been amazing. We've talked a lot about communicating that message and continuing to make that progress. Where do you see ADSA playing a role in that kind of communication? Is that something for us or something more for the commodity groups to be involved with?
Yes, and both. This area, I'm so glad that this panel has really keyed in on communication and partnership. Those are the two issues of the future, in my view. And for communication, we are a scientific association, and scientists in America, in general, have a public relations problem oftentimes, or a communications problem. We have to regain the public trust and confidence oftentimes. And that means we have to speak their language, as other panelists have talked about, reach out to the public, reach out to our elected officials in language, in countenance that can connect with them. We have to be real people, and we have to train scientists to do this. We, as I think one of the panelists earlier said, dairy has this incredible message. We have the most wonderful story to tell, and we just need to know how to tell it. So this is an area in terms of the future for ADSA that we are highlighting or focusing on as we move into a new strategic planning cycle, that communication is critical, and being, you know, the voice of science that can engage and capture the hearts of the public and help our policymakers to understand the issues and so forth. And working with our partners, our commodity groups, our industry folks who are brilliant at communicating in their own venue, we need to work together. So I'm excited.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, we're running up on the end of our time. I'm going to take the liberty, since we're just past 12:30 now Eastern time. I'm going to call a close to our roundtable. I want to thank all of the speakers so much for taking their time and contributing so much to this. It's been very informative, and I'm sure that this will be one of the symposia that many people will come back and view and find more information on policy. So again, thank you everyone for being here, for your contributions, and I wish everybody a great day.